I am LaMarsha Lewis. Let's talk. Sunday, January the 24th, 2021. I wanted to kind of do a continuous topic in regards to Meghan McCain. A couple of days ago, I did a video and I asked the question, is Meghan McCain a racist? The reason for the question, I had been following different platforms, different YouTubers and social media platforms, and that had became a question that had been trending about Meghan McCain. Is she a racist? And as I stated in the previous commentary that I did, in my opinion, yes, I would say that she is. And one is because of the continuous behavior and attitude that she continues to show us. You may get a moment where we got the good Meghan, you know, I care about people, I'm respectful to people, I want to learn about, especially as just on Monday, last Monday, on January the 18th, where they did the show about giving, paying tribute to the late Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., because we know the third Monday in January is now a federal holiday, and many often get tributes to the late Dr. Martin Luther King. And Meghan McCain shared where she and her co-host Sunny Hostin have had those very hard, difficult talks basically about racism behind the scene, on air as well as off air. She said, I want to publicly thank my co-host Sunny Hostin. And at that point in time, I'm trying to say, okay, you know, she's saying she wants to do her part. Then just a few days later, she reverts right back to the Meghan McCain, the racist, again, the unprofessional, the self-entitlement, the white privilege, and always want us to know, well, she's John McCain's daughter, so what she says basically goes. And I want to continue to top it because, like I said, just Friday, she tried to go in on Pete Buttigieg about trending topic. It was about military troops, National Guards in D.C. Some had been that was on break. The story really got just taken out of context. It was just extreme, exaggerated. Military personnel, men and women that was on a break, was said to have been in a garage where some said it was like 5,000 troops sharing one bathroom or two bathrooms. But in my perspective of that, if they had a bathroom, if it was just one, that was something to be grateful for. Because they was deployed somewhere outside in the wilderness, they had nature. You wouldn't even have a potty, you know, one of those portable potties. So it was extreme, but again, she just being, well, I'm military, and it was 31 degrees in D.C. Military personnel are trained for far much worse than having to, one, be in a heated parking garage, and even if it was 31 degrees in Washington, D.C., sometimes it's far worse than that. They were trained to get through gas. So they can be gas in training process, certainly while on a break, and we know breaks doesn't last that long. But that's not what I want to talk about. I want to continue the conversation because we have to always look at what we get. Anyone can say he or she is this, anyone can say he or she is that, but it always a continuous pattern that you show us. I want to play a clip from Friday, but again, I want to just continue this conversation because Meghan McCain, she is just simply, she's known without a doubt for being John McCain's daughter. She's known by the attitude, basically always being rude and being disrespectful, as I said, in my opinion, to her elders like Joy. You know, I understand these ladies, you got 5 ladies and 6 if you include Anna. You all got your different perspective, your different thoughts, your different opinions. But to be disrespectful, especially to your elder, a woman that's in her 70s, that's just, it draws the line to me. But it always reflects back to, in my opinion, how things were how you were brought up, your training, how you were disciplined, if you were disciplined, if you were taught to respect your elder. And from what we seem to see of this young lady who is 36 years old, just became a mother last year in September, and it seemed like there really wasn't any discipline. There was no self-respect to, like I say, your elders, to your, say, fellow colleagues, people that you work with. We've seen her be rude to everyone. We've seen her be rude to Whoopi, and we know Whoopi is a longtime friend of the family, her late dad. They go way back. Again, to when there was a live audience, she's been rude to the live audience. All of the co-hosts, guests, like I said, when president at the time was president, it was Senator-elect Raphael Warnock was on the show. She tried to interrogate the man. She did not want to accept the answer that he had gave. When you ask a guest a question, if he or she answers that question, and whether you get the answer or the response that you would like to get or looking for, it's not up to you to continue to try and get that guest to say what you want him or her to say. You ask the question, and the person is to answer the question from their own perspective, from their own thoughts and views. And so she often doesn't interview, she interrogates. And then just along with the things that's been said, how she's, especially on Twitter, that being rude to various other people. And it's one thing, you can't buy character. You can be rich, you can have all the money in the world, you can be the daughter of a famous person, you can have doors open for you, and land jobs of the magnitude where you get to sit at a table and be a co-host and get to do act any kind of way that you would like, even when it's unprofessional and rude and not tasteful, but you get to do it because of a famous last name or being the daughter of a famous person. You can't buy character. You just can't. She was talking about on Friday's show, and again I will play the clip. We know now President Biden had signed an executive order to where it's mandate for people to wear a mask whenever you in, I don't care what federal building, whether it's in our nation's capital or at your various states where we have federal business, you are to have a mask. Well, President Biden was outside, and as it was stated, more than 10 feet apart. It was not a huge, large gathering with a mass of people around. For a few moments, he was outside taking in a moment. He didn't wear a mask, but now this is my perspective on that in regards to Meghan trying to berate President Biden for a moment wearing a mask. We know, we have seen numerous times, even before he became president, just out there on the campaign trail, whenever we see him, he would be wearing a mask. He wore it at the inauguration, like I said, for this brief moment, and that's just like at the inauguration. For brief moments, they took the mask off. But her thing is, well, he just signed an executive order to wear a mask in all federal buildings, but here he is outside. I was disappointed. Well, many of us are disappointed in you every single day just for your snottiness and your nasty disposition and attitude of unprofessionalism alone. So you aren't the only one that was disappointed. Because many of us, again, are disappointed on a daily from the behavior and the attitude that we see you give out every day. But she wanted to berate. And my thing is this: has she forgotten when her dad was first diagnosed with cancer glioblastoma, I believe is cancer that he had, a brain cancer, the same type of cancer that President son Beau Biden passed away from. He consoled her on national TV. Joe Biden was a guest. It was around the Christmas holidays, and she was talking about thanking him and talking about that his son Beau had the same cancer that her dad had just been diagnosed with. And again, you know, this was when it was first diagnosed and had became known to the public about her dad having cancer. So she was, you know, which is understandable, very emotional. But again, it was Joe Biden called. It was three people. It was her here. At the time, Sonny was in the middle, and at that time, Vice President Biden was on the opposite side of Sonny. And when he saw Meghan begin to become emotional and, you know, on live TV, he basically nodded to Sonny to switch places, in which Sonny just slid down, and he came and he took her by the hand. And I'm going to try and play that clip as well. And he consoled her, and for her to do this, and then he spoke at her dad's funeral. She knows that Biden and her dad has always been, you know, very good friends. Her mom actually came out and endorsed President Biden. She said she's still a Republican, but she was doing the right thing because she know her husband would have done the same thing. It's about country over party, not party over country. And just seeing how Trump had did everything. Cindy McCain publicly came out and endorsed Joe Biden. Meghan never did do that, so I assume she voted for him. I don't know, but this man has been, in fact, it was Dr. Jill Biden who introduced her parents. They were somewhere in Hawaii, I believe it was, and Senator John McCain, he wasn't a senator at that time, because it wasn't long after that when he had been released from when he was captured in the military for years, and he was with Biden and Jill, and he saw Cindy McCain, and at that time it was Cindy, she was Cindy Hensley, and it was stated that Jill said, well, why don't you go talk to her? And so therefore it kind of introduced, and he, you know, and as they would say, the rest is history. So she knows Joe Biden very well. Again, she knows the respect that her dad and Joe Biden, for her to come and then do that very distasteful, didn't make sense. She's been getting dragged on Twitter. Also, the comments she made about Dr. Fauci and all of this, talking about he said don't wear masks, and she was pregnant in New York, and all of this. Again, just being the distasteful person that she. Let me play this. Says this is here where Biden consoled her on national TV. Why is it not playing? Hold on one second. Okay, let me get this not playing. Let me see here.
Last time that you were on was an
It says Joe Biden consoles Meghan McCain.
Ready for tonight? As ready as can be.
Let me get past this, the ad.
This is the story of a guest who changed his seat on a talk show so he could comfort a co-host.
Joe Biden and Meghan McCain may be from opposing political parties, but her father and his son shared a disease.
Your son, Beau, had the same cancer that my father was diagnosed with 6 months ago. And I'm sorry.
There's a lot of hope here.
I think about Beau almost every day. And I was told, sorry, that this doesn't get easier.
That's when Biden switched chairs on ABC's The View.
It is about everyone, but look, one of the things that
This is from CNN Politics. This clip.
John, your dad, you may remember when you were a little kid, your dad took care of my bull.
Beau Biden died almost 3 years ago from glioblastoma, an aggressive brain cancer for which John McCain is now being treated. Who better than Joe to hold Meghan's hand?
And if anybody can make it, your dad. Her dad is one of my best friends.
The former vice president even succeeded in making...
he went on to say her dad is one of my best friends. Now listen to the clip on Friday.
Visceral relief. Told us repeat. Sit here and
This time. And that out...
Masks don't work and to throw them away. I was pregnant.
in charge, and so
This is
I'm
Sarah
finding
finishing
that
up.
relief now.
We're going to listen to Meghan.
Right. I don't think we're ever going to know exactly how many people
This is on
died
Friday.
because of the last administration's failed policies. Do you think we'll ever find that out, Meghan?
Look, I think the great horror of living in America right now is the absolute, complete, and total breakdown of trust in our institutions. And since everyone has gone after the Trump administration, I think that it is okay to hold the feet to the fire for Dr. Fauci as well. I remember being told, and I too would like to be treated like an adult, Sarah, that masks don't work and to throw them away. I was pregnant in New York City when the pandemic broke out. I had a bunch of masks and I ended up giving them away because they said it doesn't do anything and you don't need it. Just say to me, first responders need them more than average Americans. Please donate them for the good of your heart. I would have done the same thing, but I was lied to. We had President Biden yesterday, him and his family, they're not wearing masks after mandating and requiring people to wear masks on federal property. He and his family were not wearing masks out. So again, I think the rules for thee, but not for me, that have been going on for a long time in the Trump administration, and now you're seeing with President Biden, I was really disappointed he wasn't wearing a mask. And I would also like to say, Amazon, I don't really understand why you're now offering the Biden administration help with COVID vaccines after months of complete silence from Trump, because that seems political as well. So why does Jeff Bezos now all of a sudden want to help with vaccine distribution, but he didn't during the Trump administration? There's a lot of blame to go around everywhere. Yes, President Trump was, integral in spreading false information, but I'm not about to give Dr. Fauci a Profile and Courage Award this morning.
Okay.
Now, that's her. Like I say, she's basically spewing out propaganda. In my opinion, the notes in which she was, if you watch the clip, looking down, reading verbatim that her husband most likely had written for her to read. Because it's been stated, allegedly, that, again, she doesn't give her own viewpoint. She gets her propaganda from her husband and just the propaganda of what Republican talking points operate off of. But for her to say she's been lied to, not once have Dr. Fauci ever said that you shouldn't. In fact, they have been asking us to wear a mask. If you're in a large gathering, if you cannot be 6 feet apart, you have been asked basically almost a year now. And she wanted to ask, well, why is Pfizer all of a sudden, or Amazon all of a sudden giving vaccine to the Biden? Because Trump called it a hoax. He downplayed it from the very beginning. In the last months of his presidency, all he focused on was his conspiracy lie that the election was rigged. Never talked about the many Americans that were still dying. And on his watch, over 400,000 Americans died. And he called it a hoax. He downplayed it. And he didn't want vaccines. He didn't even want people to be tested because that would make him look bad. He was concerned about the economy. Because if you got a thriving economy, that means he may have another chance. But she wants to be intentionally, I guess, just ignore all of that. Ignore the true facts that one, Trump and the Republican Party played down the coronavirus. He called it a hoax. He wasn't trying to get back. He wasn't trying to get vaccinated. He never operated in the theory of wearing a mask, asking we the American people to wear it. In fact, he mocked Joe Biden for wearing a mask. But Meghan wanted to come with this little fake outrage, and as she could see, and as many people said, it was outside. In fact, let me it was something Anna Navarro had said that I wanted to read. It's just this, people have so much fake outrage to, it's just ridiculous, because she's going to ignore the fact that Trump called it a hoax completely down. This is what Anna had said. She said it was talking about, as I said on another commentary, about President Biden wearing a Rolex watch at his inauguration. This is a tweet from Anna Navarro. I'm outraged by Biden's scandal. Outrage, I tell you. First it was Peloton. Then it was not wearing a mask while standing outdoors on federal property within 10 feet of the nearest person. Never mind, it was a marble statue. Then it was wearing a Rolex. How dare he? So the shade right there where she said that part. Then it was not wearing a mask while standing outdoors on federal property within 10 feet of a nearest person. Never mind that it was a marble statue, that big old statue of King that was there. That was a little shade to Meghan McCain, in my opinion. But again, going back to Meghan with that, I believe Biden. I just don't believe the Democrat coalition. What? She said all members. Meghan is basically, like I said, she contradicts herself a whole lot, because she knows that President Biden wears a mask. He practiced what he preaches. He's an example of what he preaches. He's an example of what he asks we, the American people, to do himself. Just like he told us that when he was signing all of them, doing the installment in recognition of some of his staff. He said if he ever find out you don't treat someone with respect, or you been unkind or making very mean statements, he will fire on the spot. Biden is nothing like Trump, but Meghan McCain is a lot like Trump. She has a lot of Trump's same attributes. She seems not care about people of color. She regularly spreads false information, knowingly that it's false information. She plays the victim game a lot, and she often becomes complicit in things. She often seems to come very blind to a lot of matters. Because she wants to go, well, it's good for thee, but not for I. That's the Republican Party. They downplayed, because Trump said it was hoax. Many of them went in cahoots with calling a hoax. You have nurses and many medical professionals saying that as patients are dying, they're saying, I can't believe this because it's not real. But then you got Meghan McCain on national TV talking about Dr. Fauci said you shouldn't wear a mask. And again, she's being dragged on Twitter and other platforms for spewing her lies and seemingly getting away with it. And the question is, why does Meghan McCain get to carry so much weight? How is it that she can have previous co-hosts banned, like Sherry Shepherd, who was a co-host prior to Meghan McCain, and because she was asked a question about Meghan McCain's friend and Andy Cohen on What Happens Live with Andy about what should Meghan McCain do, and all Sherry said, because she was asked the question, therefore she answered the question, well, I just think she should lighten up some. basically don't carry the weight of the world on your shoulders. Don't take the job so seriously. Have some fun, you know, just lighten up. But this Meghan didn't like the response, and she went, and as it was pointed out, or has been pointed out, allegedly, but this is true because Sherry hasn't been back on there since this allegation came out that Meghan went to HR higher ups and didn't want Sherry to be on the show. Also because Sherry, which we are in America where we have the freedom of speech, the freedom to speak and say what we want, but because Meghan McCain, John McCain's daughter, didn't like, she had a woman of color banned from the show. Same thing again with Tara Sefmeyer. When Tara Sefmeyer was on the show and she called Trump, the Trumpism a cult, Meghan McCain didn't like that. Again, she goes to the higher ups. And because she's Meghan McCain, she carries weight. She's John McCain's daughter. But all she has is an arts degree. Didn't even go through the process of screen testing because, again, she's John McCain's daughter. She gets special privilege. She had Tara Sefmeyer, a CNN commentator, has her own podcast, very active in the Republican Party, very conservative. But because Meghan McCain didn't like something she said, she got the lady, again, allegedly, but you see that it's true for the simple fact she hasn't been back to guest co-host. All at the cause of Meghan McCain. And my question is why? How and why? Especially when the events take place outside of work. Like that comment that Sherry was asked, and that time when she tried to get the makeup artist Cara Dupree fired, but because of Whoopi's interjection saying leave Karen alone, she didn't succeed in that. She tried to also get Anna banned and not be able to be a co-host. She didn't succeed in that. But now when it comes, these two people that she did get banned, which was Sherry Shepherd, a former co-host of The View, a black woman. Tara Sefmeyer, a very well-known Republican conservative CNN commentator, a black woman. Tried to get a black makeup artist fired because she didn't like the fact the woman liked the freaking tweet that was in regards to Meghan McCain. She tried it, but because of Whoopi Goldberg is why Karen still has a job. If Whoopi hadn't interjected on the behalf of Karen, Karen would have been another person like Sherry and Tara. But Meghan wants us to think she's not a racist. And we know that's learned behavior. That's learned behavior. Meghan is the perfect example of throwing rocks and hiding your hands. Throw the rocks and hide in your hands. Like I say, Monday's show, she's giving, just all this warm, beautiful speech about the late Martin Luther King. And her dad voted against that being a federal holiday. And again, she's had two women of color banned from this show because of things she didn't like. Personally, had nothing to do with the job. See, that's where the real issue comes in. These was personal. It was on social media. I've been asked a question that Sherry, like I said, Sherry simply answered a question asked of her. And Tara Sefmeyer was guest co-hosting, giving her perspective and her opinion, in which she had every right to do. And for Meghan to go to these extremes, to want to get people fired from their jobs all because of something she doesn't like, that's exemplifying white privilege at its finest. This is a great example of what validates racism. Validates her being, yes, a racist. Again, because if it was a woman of color to come on daily warning spewing propaganda, giving out intentionally and knowing false information, calling a doctor of the caliber of Dr. Fauci, saying that he lied and said not to wear a mask. Then, like I said, coming on there and degrading a lone family friend that had the utmost respect for her father. Like I said, for her to just come on and read, as you can tell, if you go back and see that video clip where she's reading verbatim, again, in my opinion, the notes that I'm sure that her husband written for her, to be that shadow to Joe Biden of all people. The man said on national TV and consoled her when she got emotional about her dad having brain cancer, the same type of cancer that she know he lost his son. And then she comes on talking about he didn't wear a mask, and it was, again, outside. It was not no large crowd. I mean, I think I might have saw his wife, or because she was saying his wife, but they weren't even standing together. And then, like Anna pointed out in her tweet, a big old statue was out there. But Meghan McCain always wants to take everything out of context and feed the narrative that she wants you to believe. Knowing most of the time it's straight, non-facts, but false lies. And just that propaganda, talking points of the Republican Party and the notes given to her by her husband. And he's been known to plagiarize. I need to throw that out there. Allegedly. So, this is just, we know it's not fair. We know it's not right. But this is what we see. And who knows what we'll see this week. But I appreciate, I did get some comments in the previous video that I asked in regards, is Meghan McCain a racist? Some of you have said, like myself, you agree that she is. And again, I want to say, it has nothing to do with her conservative views. It's the delivery. It's that self-entitlement. It's that white privilege. It's throwing in our faces all the time that she's John McCain's daughter. And the disrespect that she gives mostly to her fellow colleagues, her co-hosts, and when they have guests on, and then the stream she has gone behind the scene. Cause see, like I said, she throw the rock and she hides her hand. See, when she on TV, she wants us, or she's trying to portray, but often goes back to who she is. Cause what's in you gonna come out. For a moment she can pretend to be a real nice person, but then eventually she always reverts back to who she really is. Like I say, Monday she was giving attributes to the late Martin Luther King, and then Friday she's berating a long life friend, our President Joe Biden, about a mask, and she know he advocates wearing a mask. It's just the lies, the lies knowingly that she's spreading falsehood, just to have a talking point that's supposed to be conservative. You know, she was talking about the military being, it was 31 degrees in D.C. Thursday night. The military are trained for far worse conditions than being, say, in a parking garage while on a break in 31 degrees in Washington, D.C. They go to war. They are deployed in much, much worse circumstances and situations than being in. And if you go back and Google that, they didn't seem like they were sad. They didn't seem like they was in any type of threat or danger. They was relaxed. They was on a break. They had hotel rooms. They couldn't go to their hotel room because the hotel where they stayed wasn't right there at the Capitol where they're supposed to be. And because at that particular time, this group of servicemen and women were on a break. And as you can see, if you go and research it, they was at their leisure of having downtime. But when it comes to the military, Meghan McCain's going to advocate for that. Why? Because her dad was a military person. Her two brothers serves in the military. her grandfather, her dad's father, his father was admirals in the military. Her dad, as we know, is buried in Indianapolis, and at the naval military there in Indianapolis. She advocates, and if you in the military, regardless how wrong you've done, just like when we learned about the young lady that got killed in the insurrection, we learned she was former military, and we saw on the House floor where a man was in his uniform, combat uniform, was former military. Oh, you get the pass if you military with Meghan McCain, right or wrong, automatically gets the pass, all because you are military. And the most people that she likes, because most of her friends are people that she has associated, like when she worked at Fox News, so she's friend with Harris Faulkner, or Faulkner Harris, whatever that black lady name is from Fox News. And then various white people, Janice Deems, S.C. Cup, Abby, and all of this, Andy Cohen, and all of her other friends. But what benefits her, that's what gets her attention. If she see you as beneath her, that's just what you are. You're beneath her. And that's why she have advocated behind the scenes, again, to try to, one, ruin Tara Selfmeyer's career, her and her husband, that has been stated allegedly. And again, we have to believe some of these facts are just that, facts, for the simple fact Sherry has not been guest co-host anymore, and neither has Tara. And again, she tried to get the makeup artist Karen DePeche fired, but because of Whoopi's interjection, that didn't take place. She's tried to get Anna banned. So again, she's good at throwing the rocks and hiding her hand and faking, just being fake. Just being fake. So I wanted to continue this conversation because she never seems to disappoint, and always coming back to showing us who she really are. As Maya Angelou said, but when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. This is my commentary. I am LaMarsha Lewis. Let's talk.